Senator Marco Rubio is an ever-present fixture these days. He's busy hawking his new book, published today, and has made regular appearances during the Republican primaries. But there are reports that Mr. Rubio may have fallen off the short list of candidates to serve as Mitt Romney's running mate. And Mr. Romney is speaking out.
What did you make of the ABC News report this morning? It said Marco Rubio was not being vetted, but Governor Tim Pawlenty was being vetted. Any comment on that story?
I get a kick out of some of the speculation that goes on, and I'm not going to comment on the process, of course, but I can tell you this. Only Beth Myers and I know who's being vetted.
Of course, if that's true, and only Mr. Romney and Miss Myers know who's being vetted as possible running mates, then won't that person be a little surprised when he or she finally gets the job? And if that person is not Marco Rubio, what does this say about Mitt Romney's efforts to win over Latinos? We're joined again by our panel, Joy Reid, David Corn and Ken Vogel. So, David, what are we to make of that statement by Mitt Romney? Does that suggest that Rubio is still on the possible running mates list?
You know, I thought of the great scene in Game Change, the HBO film, in which one guy says, I thought you were vetting Sarah Palin. And he goes, I thought you were vetting Sarah Palin. I mean, listen, if they're doing a vetting operation, it's not just Beth Myers. There have to be, you know, a team of lawyers and others who are vetting. Of course, the people being vetted knows. So it's beyond that. But, you know, I think 2 months ago or so, Marco Rubio gave this interview to NRO, the National Review Online, that was fascinating because in it he said, I will not be vetted for vice president, which indicated to me he knew something, and there was a reason why he didn't want to be vetted or he knew he wouldn't be vetted. So this report is in keeping with that. And I think the last 3 days have made it impossible for him to be on the ticket now because every question is going to be, what's your position on immigration? How come you're closer to Barack Obama, or at least you used to be, than the guy who you want to run with?
Yeah, that is a problem. Ken, we're still waiting to know what Mitt Romney's position is on the new immigration policy, and this is causing confusion for the Republicans. They're not even now able to respond to questions themselves on this subject. Take a listen.
I think we're going to wait until we hear what Governor Romney has to say on this issue. There may be others behind me who want to address it, but my view is he is the leader of our party from now until November, and we hope beyond. And we're going to wait and see what he has to say about it.
Now, Ken, I thought Republicans were usually on message and they have message discipline. What's gone on here?
Well, there is no message. And again, it's because President Obama put them in a box. No, I'm serious. It's a very difficult issue on which for them to take a position. They can come right out and say that they're opposed to it, but then they look like they are, potentially being harsh or even discriminatory towards these children of undocumented immigrants who are here through no fault of their own, who are a very sympathetic group. And then, or they could say that they're in favor of it and give President Obama some points. In fact, many have in the past taken positions that would seem to be simpatico with the executive order. Instead, what we're hearing a lot of is them arguing with it on process, saying that, it's a temporary fix to a permanent problem, a problem that needs a more concerted effort, a legislative effort. But the fact of the matter is there was no action on this going on in Congress. So for Speaker Boehner, who spoke today as well to reporters saying that the president's executive order makes it more difficult, makes it less likely for there to be progress in Congress. Well, there wasn't going to be any progress anyway, so it's a little bit disingenuous to say that this sort of, hinders progress further on this issue.
Indeed. Joy, we've been talking about strategy, and there are signs at least that some Republicans are playing right into the president's hands. Take a listen to this.
There are long-term serious implications for a president that would overreach and try to rule by edict. I am prepared to sue the president, and I am preparing to file.
Now, that comes from a man called Steve King of Iowa, who, as you know, has previously compared immigrants to dogs. So if you're the president and you hear this guy's going to sue you, do you send him a thank you note?
Right. But see, here's the problem. The only people who are going to have the courage to speak about this policy are people like Steve King, people who are going to say the most wild and outlandish things that are going to further offend Hispanic voters, that are going to deepen the trench that Romney can't pull out of, because guess what? Romney won't stand up to Steve King. Why? Because Steve King represents a base that probably likes Steve King more than they like Mitt Romney. So Romney is in a box that is of multiple rooms, all of which he's locked in. He can't get out. And to be quickly, Rubio would never have gotten him out. We keep forgetting Rubio was against the DREAM Act.
Yes.
Rubio ran as a Tea Partier. Rubio had the same problem that Romney does on immigration. He wouldn't have helped him anyway.
You've got the final word.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is watching Mitch McConnell there. He is the lead Republican senator in the highest legislative body in the greatest democracy in the world.
Yes.
And this is a pressing issue. And he says, I'm not going to tell you what I think. I'm not going to take a stand. This guy who's not elected to anything yet, we're going to wait for him to make up his mind. This is leadership in the Republican Party. I give points to Steve King. He tells us what he thinks. Yeah. Mitch McConnell and the others are just acting like weasels because they're afraid of the politics.
Do you think Mitt Romney might have been surprised to learn that he's now the de facto leader of the Republican Party?
That was not fair to weasels.
Our thanks to Joy Reid, David Corn and Ken Vogel.